Hey guys, Kevin here for the series premiere of Dice, the new show on Showtime, Season 1, Episode 1, Elvis, and I was looking forward to the show, but like the girlfriend experience, I wasn't like jumping for joy about it. The trailer actually, I thought looked really funny, just from the premise and everything. A lot of the jokes I think really landed in the trailer. I liked the idea of it, and I was interested in seeing really how the show was going to be, because it seemed kind of like Louie a little bit. You guys know the show Louie, where there's a different story every episode. It never really actually, it kind of connects, but it's always telling some sort of message, and it's Louis playing himself basically. That's kind of like this, except it's not really. I don't have much to say about the show. After watching this first episode, I don't have much to say about it. I will say what I liked about it, definitely. I will say that this pilot in general, I thought was pretty mediocre. There were a lot of things that I didn't like about it that I will get into. But there were a lot of things I do like about it, and I am probably going to continue watching the show. Probably not binge it. I'm probably just going to watch it weekly until it ends and then review it for you guys then, because there's only 6 episodes, so that's fine. I can do that. But let's just get into this episode. There's not really much of a plot to this show. The basic plot, I think, is that we have Andrew Dice Clay, who once was this huge star. Everyone really knew who he was, and now he's kind of flown under the radar a bit. He used to be a comedian and everything, and he was this actor, and he did all these movies and things like that. Um, and now he's kind of flown under the radar. Not as many people know who he is. The one thing I can recognize him that I've seen him in is Vinyl when he was Buck, but of course, he was murdered in that. That was just a cameo. But ever since then, no one really recognizes him, and this is kind of like the goings-on in his life, kind of like a fictionalized version of that. It's a cool premise. There's some stuff they do with it. My main thing with this first episode is that I did like the idea for this first episode. Basically, this first episode, we had him and his wife, not wife, girlfriend, Carmen, who basically Carmen is inviting him to her brother's wedding, where he is having a wedding to his fiance, who is also gay, and they're having a gay wedding basically. And what ends up happening is, he also invites his friend Milkshake, and they go to this. Yes, I know Milkshake, really weird name, but basically, they go to this wedding, they get very involved with gambling, and that's pretty much was the plot of this episode. It's about Andrew Dice Clay gambling for like 15 minutes, and that's really what didn't work for me. There is some stuff I think that really did work in this episode. First of all, let's talk about the cast. I overall really do like the cast. I think they all work very well together. Andrew Dice Clay, I think, does a very good job at playing kind of like a version of himself that I'm pretty sure he's willing to make fun of. I'm sure this is kind of how he is in real life, but I do think that he's a bit over the top, and I do think he did a good job for the most part. You definitely see that obviously he's playing himself, so it's not hard to do, but I think he is kind of playing a side of him that I think even he would find pretty funny. Kind of like a gangster type persona, like a wannabe gangster, definitely. I really love that. I thought he was definitely very funny. I definitely really did enjoy his character. Most of what he said really did land. I'm not really compelled by his character, but I do like what he's trying to do overall. My main thing with him is that we don't really have much of a plot going on with him. Like, why are we really following this guy? Right now, we're just kind of following his life, when I really wanted there to be more of people not recognizing him, because that stuff is very funny. Without a doubt, those are the funniest jokes on the show. When we have stuff with people not recognizing who he is, or talking about how he's irrelevant, that stuff is hilarious. I love it. But a lot of the jokes aren't like that in this episode, because like I said, most of this had to do with him gambling. Kevin Corrigan, I think Kevin Corrigan's a very talented actor. I've loved him since Grounded for Life. That's probably one of my favorite comedies and shows in general. I think he's very talented on this show, and he's very talented here as well. I really do like him as Milkshake. I think him and Dice worked very well together. I definitely like the buddy between these two. I think they work really well. He had some really funny things in this episode. He's kind of the idiot between the two of them, definitely kind of an idiot a little bit, and he does get him into a lot of situations. I thought he was good. And then I really like Natasha Leggero as Carmen, who pretty much is who you expect Dice to date. I don't know if they're actually dating in real life. I don't think they are, but I think she did a good job. You can definitely tell that she understands Dice. She kind of just tolerates him, and that's kind of what it's all about. So I think the cast was good. Definitely they were okay. I don't really think a lot of them really got their time to shine, because like I said, for a first episode, this was kind of unusual, definitely. For a first episode, this didn't really feel like a first episode, didn't really introduce me to anything. I didn't really necessarily need to be introduced, but I did want a little bit of backstory. The most we find out in this episode is that Milkshake and Dice are best friends, and that Carmen is his girlfriend, and that he doesn't want to get married because he doesn't think marriage is last. Now, that I thought was very interesting. The problem was the majority of this episode is Dice and Milkshake milkshake gambling with this guy who is an Elvis impersonator, basically, and it just didn't really land for me. None of the humor really I thought was that funny. I wasn't really into a lot of that, and a lot of that really I think was very slow and just wasn't that interesting. Everything else up to that, like them going to the wedding, that was fine. Everything besides that, the first scene was really funny. I really loved the first scene where he's being interviewed and things like that. But just this whole middle section of the episode, a lot of the jokes just didn't really land for me. And the humor, I will say, is very, very dry, and a lot of it doesn't really land as well as it should have. I think that the show is good, but it doesn't really have a lot of heart to it, and I kind of do want it to have a little bit of heart. There is a nice scene towards the end where Dice does do a marriage, like a marriage toast to the groom and groom, and kind of does his own version of it, where he talks about blowjobs thing, is that, which I thought was pretty funny. I liked his marriage proposal. I liked, not marriage proposal, his marriage toast overall. I thought that was funny. But a lot of the jokes just didn't really land for me. I found a lot of it to be very just one note, a lot of it just very weighed down, and a lot of it just didn't really work. I wasn't a huge fan of it. This whole situation with Elvis I thought was dumb in the first place. The fact that this guy is actually a gambler and that he's not actually a priest, I thought was pretty dumb. I definitely was not a fan of it. I get that Dice, was able to tell that this guy wasn't really a priest and couldn't really marry them. I get that. I just really wasn't a fan of it. I didn't really find it that funny. I didn't really find it that interesting, and there was really nothing that intrigued me that much. I wasn't like, all right, I'm really enjoying the show. That whole part of the episode I didn't really like. I do like the way these three work here. I can already tell they work very well. You can tell that Carmen doesn't really like Milkshake. They didn't have a lot of time, all three of them on screen. I definitely want to see more of the dynamic as the show goes on, but that was really the thing. The directing here I thought was okay. I really have no problem with the tone. The tone is clearly just, they're making fun of themselves. They're not afraid to make fun of themselves, and I like that definitely. I just want more of that humor with Dice being irrelevant, because that stuff is very funny, and the way they play with that, I really do enjoy. I mean, there's a lot you can do with that, but this episode didn't really focus on that at all. It focused on them going to a wedding, and it felt more like we've seen episodes of this show rather than the first episode, and I don't really know why they chose this episode to be the first episode. I'm sure there are going to be other episodes this season where I'm like, that should have been the first episode, because this episode, it just felt like an awkward introduction. We very quickly got introduced to the world, things like that, but there just really wasn't much of an introduction here. Like I said, it mainly focused on, this guy, this Elvis impersonator that ended up, making him lose all this money, and basically he tried to get his money back and all this stuff, and I just really wasn't as interested as I should have been. I wasn't as interested in this episode. I didn't think this episode was all that great, and a lot of the humor just didn't land for me. I do think the show has a lot of potential. I do think they can do a lot more with the show. They just need to realize what works and what doesn't, and a lot of the humor in this episode did not work for me. Like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of it. But I am going to continue to watch. I definitely do enjoy it. I don't have a lot to say about this show, just because it's kind of a hard show to review. There just isn't really much to say about it. I do enjoy where it's headed. I think Andrew Dice Clay does a good job. I think this is kind of a cool idea to have just him make fun of himself. But I want more of that humor of him being irrelevant and no one really recognizing him, because that stuff is very funny. And if that's what the show is really about, I think that's going to be very funny. I really would like this show to be him trying to prove that he's still relevant and everyone else thinking he's irrelevant. I think that kind of stuff is funny, and the way they can play with that. I mean, it's clear the show is not meant to be taken seriously. It's clear this is a comedy. You're not supposed to take this seriously. I'm perfectly fine with that. I just want a little more context, a little bit more story, and then I'll be fine. Just this episode, I didn't think was a great way to start it. But overall, guys, so much you guys saw this pilot. If you have seen, I'd say check it out, definitely. It's nothing amazing. It's nothing revolutionary. No one's going to be upset with you if you didn't check it out. I will definitely say that. But for 6 episodes, I probably will stick with it. Maybe I'll watch the second episode tonight. I don't know. I think it's right after House of Lies, so that's good. House of Lies is definitely more story-driven. That's why I love House of Lies, and Dice is really not. House of Lies is very, multi-character, story, vision. It has humor, but it's very story-driven, as we know, and that's really why I love that show. And this show doesn't seem to be like that. It seems more like Louie, where we're going to have a different story every single week, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I have really no problem with that. It's just, for me, it's not really a show I can review much, but overall, let me know what you guys thought of the show. If you have seen, love to hear your thoughts on it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which either will be for the Girlfriend Experience episode 3, or for, I guess, the season premiere of Fear the Walking Dead, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.